Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show. Welcome to Head in Tech. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We're doing a reverse interview. And Maciek, who is here with me, and myself, I'm Sarah. We are
Hi.
going to grill Sanj on all aspects of his life. He doesn't know what's going to hit him. We've got a list of questions from all the people that he's interviewed over this first season of Head in Tech. And we're going to go through them and find out a lot more about the man behind the microphone.
Okay, sounds good. And yeah, it's not questions from everyone. It's just from those who could be asked to reply to me. Most have blocked me already.
Totally understandable behavior, really.
For people that don't know, the three of us went to boot camp together in 2015. We're old friends.
Yes, we are.
And you were both, of course, interview guests on my show, and you both had this brilliant idea. You were like, oh yeah, you should end it with like guests asking you the questions. So then I was like, oh yeah, that's not a bad idea. And who better to do it than you two?
Great stuff.
So I can jump in with the first question because I remember
ladies first.
I remember you, Sanj, as positive and encouraging and generous with your knowledge and your contacts. And so it's no surprise to me that you have started a podcast about sharing advice and knowledge from across the industry. But I want to hear about the path that took you to starting this podcast.
But the path that brought me to this podcast, I guess, was... So I'd started, I'd left my job. So I'd left my permanent job and I was like taking a little break, and then I was moving from the UK back here to Hong Kong where I'm now. And I always knew I was going to work on some side projects and stuff. But one of the things that kind of took off for me was like I started to write a book. It's been on hold now for a while, but the book was to kind of help people with their careers. I felt like that's probably where I excelled the most. Like I rather immodestly thought I did really well at a bunch of stuff, but I think that where I think I did the best was just that pure kind of mechanical career progression side of it, And there's stuff that they don't teach you, like there's a lot of information out there about how to code and how to test and how to write this line, how to learn that framework, and this and that. But there's very little around what we used to call soft skills and are now called core skills. There's very little around CVs, interviews, going for the right role, how to manage your progression, how to manage your manager, which is a wonderful phrase we learned from Denise.
Yeah,
I started writing that book, and I realized there were so many gaps, so many areas where I just didn't have enough to say. I didn't have enough to input. So, I don't want to just like write something for the sake of it. And people had said to me before, you should really do a podcast. And it was a very off the cuff kind of remark, But then a couple of people said to me again in the same week when I was talking about my book, they were like, you should start a podcast because, we listen to podcasts and, it would be like a great way to interview people who could teach you about these things, and you can gain a lot more knowledge. And then, you can build up a user base and an audience. And they're like, yeah, we buy books or ebooks or whatever from people that, podcasters we subscribe to and all that. So they're like, yeah, that might be a good path. So I was like, okay, it's not a bad idea. And that was half of it. The other half was, like I said, because I had left working in tech, so I was no longer a software engineer working with other people, and it wasn't really boredom. It was more like lack of stimulation. Like, you two know this as well as I do. You come from other careers, and then you have this kind of expectation of what it'll be like working in tech. Like, it's this magical, space age Willy Wonka's factory where everyone's this really energetic, friendly genius, and they, you're going to be on the edge and doing like crazy stuff.
I'm going to write this up.
And
we'll change the world and so on.
So yeah, I started to miss that, that interaction with other developers. So I was like, maybe this would be a good way to sort of kill two birds with one stone. And also something that another guest of mine, Kevon Chung, who was on the show a couple of episodes ago, he was talking about building in public. And I'm going to paraphrase what he said, but he always goes for the most difficult and uncomfortable choice, because his end game, he's not trying to reach success. He's trying to reach growth, to keep learning. So he's happy to keep failing and falling down the stairs and getting, cuts and scrapes and having his ego pummeled every day, and losing subscribers. He's like, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I just want to keep growing, So I guess that's what kind of brought me here to this podcast,
That's cool. That's very
No, that's
interesting.
excellent.
Sorry, very long-winded answer
No,
there.
that's excellent. That's what we need.
Okay.
It was, it's just a sign. It was very good, basically. Doug said yes.
Right. Even the puppy
exactly.
agrees.
So, I mean, from all your interviews, have you been surprised by themes? Some individuals achieve their goals, their success in tech. Have you been impressed in any of their stories, and anything you would like to mention?
Yeah, I mean, impressed. Yeah, I think I'm impressed by everyone, because everyone goes on their own personal human journey, and anyone that keeps fighting and keeps getting better, 1% a day, that was our mantra, right? Back in boot camp, right? You just have to be 1% better every day. So, I'm impressed by everyone. And I'm impressed by the humanity of it as well, because life is not easy, working in our industry is not easy, and there's a lot of challenges, right? But surprises, I feel like there was nothing really too surprising to me about people's success. Like, everyone's success story kind of involved just working bloody hard, and there's ups and downs, and there's the old saying, success is 10% inspiration and 90% perspiration. One big surprise did happen, and it was around women. So, like, I interviewed Sarah and like a whole bunch of other women, women who have mostly been colleagues of mine, and some are sort of friends and acquaintances, or we went to boot camp or whatever. And I never really knew, I think I took for granted how easy relatively men have it compared to women, or maybe another way of putting it is how difficult it is for women still today, how they still have obstacles, every step of the way. And it's outside of, there's a very, exactly. There are a lot of very nice companies with great cultures that are very supportive, and those are, largely speaking, really nice places where, women generally have an equal shake, as they say. But even there's a little bit, everyone, virtually everyone, said that there's at least subtle discrimination, And again, virtually everyone had stories like, yeah, I had a manager who told me girls can't code, and, I should be a secretary and stuff like that, like with a straight face. And, they would go and complain about it and nothing would happen. And what lessons are those? Yeah. So, I mean, I better not go on about it because I might get too animated and angry.
I'm sorry, but that I would like to see because it never happens.
You want that?
Okay.
No, but it's not just for women, but it's about everyone. Everyone should get a fair shake, right? I don't care if you're a woman, you're disabled, gay, whatever. Black, white, brown,
fair play, should be, right? Real meaning of it.
Exactly,
True.
Exactly. That's what everyone preaches, and we need to kind of get there.
I guess on that note, before we continue with some questions, I have my own question. One, I promise, just one. When I've been working with you, and I've known you from that time when we were studying together, I've noticed that you never show any signs of stress. Maybe one time, a little occasion. Really? And I'm just wondering how you cope with that. I mean, I'm sure there will be some level of stress, and I mean, obviously, if you can reveal that, I'm trying to push you here, but what I'm trying to say, you really come across really well in stressful situations, and I think that's quite interesting to know how you do that.
Well, thank you for saying that. It's nice to get that feedback. I'm not sure I've ever had anyone say exactly that to me. Definitely on the inside, I feel stressed all the time. I feel like a wreck regularly. So I guess it's just like I hide it well. you know?
No?
And I guess at the end of the day, like if we're in a shared working environment, you know, we're working on something or whatever the situation might be. If there's stress or there's something bad, like being stressed out or like stressing others isn't going to make anything better, you know? So I always feel like, you know, you just have to keep calm and carry on, as they say.
I mean, you can cut this moment now, but I'm going to say that I remember we had a drink before the final presentation. So because we had a bit nervous, all of us. So yeah. So that piece can be cut out if you need to.
Okay. Well, maybe we can keep it in,
you
know. What's okay.
Okay, I guess it's over to Sarah. I think Francis or Francois was asking something worth.
Yeah, definitely.
asking,
So what has been the most useful lesson that you've learned from listening to everyone's career stories?
I think it would have to come down to how people manage their imposter syndrome, because again, before talking to everyone about this, and you know, it's weird because a lot of the people I've interviewed have been my colleagues who I've worked really close with in the past, you know, for like 6 months or 2 years or 3 years, you know, a long time. And, you know, you feel like you know someone, but in that environment, you only know a certain slice of someone, you know, and then when you kind of, you know, when I went through this process of interviewing them, you know, it uncovers so much more. And that's been really interesting to me, to discover that there's actually a lot more going on with people, you know, under the surface, you know, and it just takes, you just have to listen a little bit, you know. That's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So listening's twice as important.
Noted.
But yeah, I think that several people, there's Sarah's puppy again. I think that, you know, a lot of people kind of said it, that they all get imposter syndrome, but it's just about how you manage that, you know, how you make sure that doesn't get in your way and you can still keep progressing, you know. So I think that's the biggest lesson that I've taken away from it.
I guess the different dynamic of that imposter syndrome. Some people just break down completely and just rebuild themselves. Others just like staying above the water sort of thing. It's kind of interesting to see different flavors of it, so to speak. Yeah, I get.
Absolutely.
So I want to credit to some people, obviously. So Nikita is asking, what's the best or most outstanding piece of advice you have received so far throughout your tech career?
Okay, great question from Nikita. And Nikita was a fantastic guest, actually. She was my last show, and she was very different. Like, you know, she's like a really young female U.S. college-educated graduate, you know, not from boot camps. But I asked her about boot camp graduates, and she said, like, she's been amazed by the boot camp grads she's worked with. She's like, I can't believe that I did this 4-year degree, and, you know, boot camp grads, you know, did like a 3 or 4 month course, and they're already contributing. And all of the ones she's met are senior to her, you know, so that was really interesting to hear. But the most outstanding piece of advice that I could maybe share with you, not that I received, because I feel like this is really strange, but I feel like advice isn't always right for everyone, you know. Like, I've received a lot of what I would say is good advice and very well-meaning advice. But generally in my career, I don't follow people's advice because, you know, maybe it's right for them, but it's not necessarily right for me. So I think the best piece of advice I could give is listen to everyone else's advice and, you know, internalize it and see. And, you know, you kind of got to run the simulation in your mind, right? Like someone says, you should always do this, you should never do that. You know, is that you? Is that authentic? Is that genuinely who you are? You know, because you're a certain flavor of person, you know, you're a character, you're going in a certain direction and, you know, you're telling your story. So I think the best advice is really don't listen to advice, unfortunately. A little controversial.
Well, it's pick and choose the advice that works for you, isn't it? It's don't listen to all advice, even if it looks like it comes from someone who's successful in a way that you want to be successful. I think that's fantastic, a fantastic summary. And so pertinent to your podcast, because you've given such a wide range of opinions in so many different topics, and people can go through and take the parts of it that mean something to them and ignore the bits that don't. But you get to be in charge of what you take in. Don't feel like you have to take on board everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you listen to everyone, you'd be pulled in every which way, right? Wouldn't you? Be torn apart virtually.
True.
So Abby has a question, and she wants to know, will
Cool.
you go back to coding? And what have you learned while promoting the podcast, the marketing side, that you didn't already know?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a third question, but we're going to save that. So the first the first question is quite a big one, actually. Will you go back to coding? So answer that one first. Will you go back to coding?
I never left coding. I've always, I mean, I don't think I'll go back to a job as a coder, as a developer or engineer. I think I decided a while ago, I just don't want to work for anyone else anymore. You know, that's been a terrible decision financially, but you know, I assume that'll work itself out. You know, at some point in the future.
You're really well with people. You're really good with people. You're people's magnet. So it's a kind of strange, but yeah, you must have your reasons.
Yeah, I think I just want to. I want to go off on my own. Yeah, you know. I mean, I did love that. I love the people. I love the environment, and you know, I loved our jobs. You know, as coders, but I don't think I'll go back to that as you know, like a salaried employee or whatever. But coding, I love. I'm still so addicted to it. Like, if you remember in boot camp, we had this senior coach, Tansaku or Sam Joseph, right? And he would say he's addicted to coding, and he'd always tell us, yeah, you're going to get addicted to coding one day, you know? And I sort of got it. And then like, it kind of only struck me a couple of years later when I was like, you know, I couldn't stop coding. Like I would have to code at night, and it was fun. I would code on the weekends, you know, on stuff that was fun to me, or like, you know, open source or building a side project. And then I sat back and I thought, oh my God, he was right. Yeah. You get addicted to coding eventually, you know? So I think I'm still addicted to it. Like brilliant. I made like a Roblox game a few months ago. That was a really fun learning experience.
To give me the name of my nephew. He's a big fan. So
yeah, come on, promo it right now. What Roblox did you release it?
Exactly.
I released it. It's called Fobby's Obby. So there's this phrase they use in the Roblox community, Obby, which stands for like an obstacle course. So my niece suggested a name. I was throwing around some names, and she goes, "Yeah, awesome. You should call it Fobby's Obby." I was like, "Yeah, that's a great name."
Yeah.
So yeah, you can check it out.
I've recorded with my nephew podcast called Minecraft for Dummies, because I have no idea what he's talking about. So he's explaining me all this lingo from Minecraft, and it's quite funny. So yeah, that's how far I go with those.
All the projects we make for young people in our lives.
Okay, well you can.
Yeah, sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're the ones that are spending the money, right?
Exactly.
And yeah, no, I keep coding. So I make my website, aheadintech.com that's like a Next JS site. So it's all with like React and stuff. So I code that. I don't think I'll ever stop coding. I mean, I'm going to use my coding superpowers to build my own stuff.
Exciting. Is now a time to hint at what that might be?
I would love to if there was anything to hint at, but there unfortunately isn't. But you'll be the first to know.
You've got a platform. Maybe now is the time to build in public, Sanj.
Oh yeah. Well, that is something I want to do more of. But for season 2, I'm going to try and be a little bit more engaging with people.
Mm-hmm. In what way? Any ideas?
So yeah, look out for that.
Pair programming.
I mean, I don't know if you watched the episode with Karan, but yeah, she point blank refused to pair program with me. She just doesn't want to program anymore, ever.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe, a little bit on Twitch. I feel like, you need to get like more into all this Twitter and like Instagram and whatever. And it's just like, it's so boring for me, but you kind of have to do it.
Yeah, you have to embrace new channels, and there's so many. Yeah.
Well, that leads really nicely into Abby's other question, which was, what have you learned while promoting the podcast on the marketing side? Maybe something that you didn't already know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. So, I mean, I thought, well, I'm going to put this up on YouTube and then it'll be on the podcast. And then, I'm going to promote it on Twitter and on Reddit. And then people will just see that and on LinkedIn. And then they'll click to the podcast. They'll listen to the podcast. They'll subscribe. And then they'll watch the YouTube video, or whatever they want. But it really doesn't work that way. Like the big problem is, firstly, I'm really not very good at doing all that promotion and marketing, and I haven't done enough of it. I need to do more, but it has to be genuine. So I'm finding my authentic voice there. Because I don't want to be fake. Because people smell BS a mile off, right? I think the big one for me, the big sort of realization was like, I get like 1,000 or 2,000 views on LinkedIn on my clips. But that doesn't translate over into everything else. And I get a bunch of interaction on Twitter, right? Or on Reddit. I can get like hundreds of views on a post. The thing I've realized is people on these platforms don't want to go off platform, So you can't go on there and say, hey, click on this and go over here and watch my thing. Because they probably won't. They want to have an interaction with you there on that platform that they're in, whether that's LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram or Reddit. So that's been the biggest realization. And that's a really, really difficult one to sort of reconcile. I'm not sure what to do with that because, like my numbers are very low actually, on the podcast and on YouTube. But then I get like 2,000 views on each clip on LinkedIn, and a lot of engagement. So I need to find a way, I think, of like joining those gears together.
Do you use any tools like Hootsuite to kind of like schedule your posts and I don't know, messages, whatnot through different channels? Because like you're saying, there will be a session on each channel and different time of the day through this kind of scheduling tools. You may do that. Have you thought about that?
I've thought about it. Yeah, I've looked at Hootsuite. I've looked at Later.com as well. I'm thinking about using that potentially for season 2. I mean, that would help you, I guess. It helps automate a lot of that work, which would be useful. But I think that's maybe step 1 to solving my problem, and then step 2 is still how do I create that engagement that can drive people to my actual content.
You already said that because you're creating a real, genuine content, and they will come eventually. If you were trying to be fake, you're going to fail. It's going to be too much. It's just patience, I guess.
And the body of content. Yeah. You've done such a breadth of topics that people are going to find small ways in, and then that will lead to loyalty.
Absolutely. And, I mean, as small as I am, I'm still growing, every show organically, little by little. It's like I'm still a baby, but the baby's crawling and it's starting to stand up now, and it's thanks to, people like you who come on, you let me interview you, and then, you bring your audience to me, and that's great. Because from like, your 500 or 1,000 followers, maybe 5 stick, and that's great. That's the only way I'm growing right now. So I'm so grateful.
So here's a really thoughtful kind of probing question, which I really like. So I'm curious to know the answer. Abby also asks, do you think that you are fully yourself when conducting the interviews, or do you think there's something holding you back?
I don't think I am fully myself. Maybe not. I think I'm someone. I don't think anything's holding me back, but it's like, there's quite a lot of pressure when you kind of, as you're probably experiencing now, there's a lot of pressure. You sit down and you're kind of like, I know Maciek's saying no, there's no pressure. It's easy. Maybe you should come and host the show.
Not this time. I think the stage fright I left, the previous.
I think, we try and emulate people sometimes, so like I found myself kind of sounding like or acting like some of the podcasters that I listen to, so no, it's weird. I think sometimes I've nailed it when I'm having a conversation with someone and we're just, in the zone and I am really myself. But usually I feel like it's like I'm a little interviewee, like if you're like a news presenter, you probably don't speak that way at home. Right.
I see.
So I think there's a bit of that. Yeah, I think I'm channeling my inner other podcasters who I know and like. You know, they're all
It's
in there, and
definitely
I'm
with
letting
your
them
twist,
speak.
and probably as the episodes go by, you'll think things will sort of smooth out into just you. But also, I mean, it is a bit of performance, isn't it? So the idea that you could be completely relaxed on a broad public platform is, I'm not sure that's the goal. But you know, somewhere in between of you and the sort of professional interviewer, and that, you know, that comes.
My
Yeah,
observation is that you are a really good listener as well. So you obviously you put your points across, but you listen to people. Because me, when I'm passionate about something, I can easily clear the room because my mouth doesn't shut. So, you know, that's something I work on. But for you, it's like you found the right balance between, you know, listening and talking. So that's kind of a skill as well.
Thank you. That's nice to hear. And do you two think I'm me? Because you know me fairly well. Do you think I'm me on the podcast?
It's a different you, but it's still you.
I think it's a more grown up you, but then it's been a really long time.
I've grown up now, Sarah.
It's about time.
You know, I was a young, wild 38-year-old back then.
Those were the days, yeah.
You know? Those were the days. You know, I'm a middle-aged man now. I'm grown up.
Oh, okay, fair enough. So, what's the goal for the future for this show, AET? What's your why?
My why is hopefully to help people get further in their tech careers. It's hopefully to help people get ahead in tech. That's where it all starts from. And what's next is obviously this is the season 1 finale. There's like a month break, and then season 2 starts. We were talking just before the recording. We've already got like a bunch of people booked in. And I want to bring some old faces back as well from the first season, you know. But I want to try some new things. You know, I want to, like I said, you know, I mean, success would be nice, but also there's more to be gained from, like, you know, learning from failures and, you know, getting a few cuts and scrapes. My ego's already been pounded to dust, so, you know, it can be pounded away some more. That's not really a big deal, you know. It doesn't define who I am. So yeah, you know, the thing that I've kind of noticed, or maybe I'm wrong or right about this, I'm not sure, but I think people engage with entertainment more than they do with information, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's, and, you know, I say that because, you know, like I'm on Reddit or Twitter or Instagram, whatever. And, you know, I will often try and help people out, you know, as much as I can. And, you know, I'm always trying to be, you know, as genuine as I can be, and I try and research my answers, and, you know, I really try to help people. And those things don't really get much traction. But when I say something stupid or post a meme, suddenly I get like 300 upvotes, you know. So it's this kind of, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, information is not worth as much to people as entertainment. So maybe.
So more jokes then.
Sarah maybe more jokes.
Well, I think
Sarah's shaking her head there. She doesn't like that.
Quality over quantity. The person that is on the receiving end of your well-researched answer, when you've helped them out, they will remember you. They will be interested. They, in my opinion, are so much more likely to click through to find out what else you have to teach them than the people who go, oh, that's really funny. I like that. Because that's the scroll through. That's the, I'll watch your 1-minute clip, but I'm not interested in what's behind it. But the deeper, more meaningful connections, that's where the loyalty comes in. And I also think that's where people can find you themselves without it being, oh, hey, have you heard of this? Because they'll be Googling, you know, what do I do if I hate my boot camp? Or I've got imposter syndrome, or, you know, like I have ADHD. How does that affect somebody who works in tech? All of these topics are specific and useful, and they're coming from experts. So I caution you to not chase the upvotes, because the body of work that you're producing is useful, and that can only be useful to an individual at a specific time. It's not going to be useful to everybody all the time.
No, very wise
Relevance
words.
is the key. Yeah,
Patience.
and you're doing really well.
Have
Very
patience.
niche subject. Patience.
Patience, yeah, patience. That I knew it was gonna. I was in it for the long haul. I knew this wasn't going to be an easy journey, and so yeah, I just need that patience, And I tell you, to be perfectly honest, I tend not to bother myself about it. Like, I don't get concerned about, oh, I only have 40 subscribers, or I only have 80 subscribers this week, or only 100 people listen. Like, that doesn't really bother me. It's the kind of when explaining to other people, like my friends or my family, and then they kind of, they do the best, but they don't 100% understand this, understandably, right? And then they're always like, well, and how much money is it making? And I'm like, well, yeah, zero, So it's kind of more like I feel patient, but then I feel my patience kind of tested when other people like question me or like poke and prod a little,
But it also seems it's a project you learn from quite a lot. So you started with a passion, that's what you do, and then you learn in the process. And the next project you'll take on, you're going to be, wiser. So eventually, at some point, that's going to, convert. So if you push it too hard and too quickly, you just push it too hard. Like I say, it's going to be not that great, I suppose. But that's just my opinion. I think there is a question from a true leader, Evgeny. Sarah, do you want to?
Yeah, and it's a brilliant question. I love this one. I love this one as well. What will you be most proud of at the end of 2020? 2021. What
2020
year are we
or
in?
2021?
Time flies, right?
Do we have a 2020 at the end of this year? At the end of this year, at the end of this year, what will you be most proud of?
Well, we're not the end of the year, but I would like to, I guess, be proud of where I've taken this. I'm hoping to pivot and add some new things to season 2. Hopefully by the end of this year, I will be wrapping up on season 3. I hope, and there could be other side projects. That's one thing. I always used to be tinkering at some side projects, and they would all reach, some random level of success and then fade away, But so I haven't really worked on anything for a while, and I'm getting a little itchy. So I do want to work on something. So yeah, I think I would be really proud if I could take a lot of my learnings over these last few months, or let's say the bulk of this year, and then turn that into something maybe in the podcasting or video space that's an interesting side project, something that hasn't quite been done before, or there's only just now emerging like a niche market for something, That's what I would like to be proud of, and that's what I would like to do. But when you're at the early stages of doing something, or you're in a transition, I'm sure you two know exactly what it's like. It's so cloudy, there's no solid things to hold on to, and it's like a universe you can craft yourself, and you don't know what's right and what's wrong. So it's difficult. That's what I really enjoyed having a regular career. It's great because you turn up from 8 to 4, 9 to 5, whatever your hours are. You do your work, and kind of the little areas you need to learn about, and you go to your little party with your workmates after hours, and you go home and you forget about work. There's nothing else for you to work on. That's someone else's job, right? That's the C and D level execs and the founders. It's their job to decide what the right thing to do is, right? You're just the hired gun. Whereas in this case, you're the whole army, a one-man army, as they say, right? So it's an uncomfortable place to be, but I guess I'm becoming more comfortable with the uncomfortableness.
And that's exciting, isn't it? Yeah, that's a great place to be.
Yeah.
Be comfortable in a sea of unknown. Yeah. Someone said that.
Yeah.
Makers, I think. So I've got a question from Ashish, and I didn't know there you're a friend of. Sorry, it's not a friend. It's the fan of Friends. So if you could be a character in Friends, which one would you be? That's the question.
I mean, I would love to be Joey, you know, but let's face it, I'm never going to be a Joey.
Why?
You know what I mean? I would like to be Joey. No way. Come on. Handsome, muscly man with like, you know, he's an actor and girls are falling over him. I don't think so.
A different taste, you know.
Yeah. I think I'm definitely a Chandler, you know. I mean, he worked in IT as well, didn't he? He was into
it is unknown what Chandler did.
More like a financial.
His actual job was never defined.
No, I do remember him working with spreadsheets at one point, but he's kind of that, you know, slightly cynical, slightly grumpy, but not mean. He's just kind of, you know, but he just kind of realizes, you know, what the fact of the matter is, and just kind of accepts his fate, you know. And I don't mean for that to sound so down and gloomy, you know. But it's kind of like, you know, he's found his happiness, you know.
Yeah,
he's not grumpy and cynical.
Yeah. Maybe I hide it really well, Sarah. But no, I think probably Chandler, and that's quite an apt question because there was actually a Friends reunion recently, wasn't there?
Like the real reunion of the actors. Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, there was like a TV episode about it. Did you watch it, Sarah?
Yeah, it was interesting. There was things revealed. I felt my relationship with Friends has changed over time, and I felt some of that tension and awkwardness. But it was there were parts of it that were very interesting and funny.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, it depends on how much you
like.
If you're fans of the show, then yes, it's the kind of thing to watch.
Maciek, you gonna watch it?
I find their jokes a little bit stale now, but there was a time when I was obviously a big fan, like most people. So I guess for the research purposes, or to see how they age, you know, what cream they use, you know.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much. Really appreciate your time,
as always. Really fun.
It's been fun.
Good to get to know you a bit more, and good luck with the podcast.
And that's all, folks. Thanks a lot for tuning in. For more info, for questions, comments, or feedback, please head on over to aheadintech.com, and don't forget to subscribe.